and welcome back. Having completed this video on driving in flood type conditions, I thought I would add a sequel involving what happens if you have flooding in your home. Now this unfortunately happens increasingly commonly with the change to weather conditions by global warming, and it is very distressing and it causes a great deal of distress and expense. There are two types of domestic house flooding. One is catastrophic, where it is a major river that has flooded and has put large amounts of water across a large area, affecting many properties. York is a typical case where that has happened repeatedly. There are others in the UK. The other type is perhaps less expected, and where a more minor waterway, such as a brook or a stream, has suddenly overflowed and water cascades normally into a lower level where there are residential properties. The flooding there is perhaps not as deep, but it is not expected. Often the householder is totally unprepared. So what can we do if you are in an area at risk of flooding to try and protect your property and your possessions as much as possible? One, particularly during times of rain, when we would expect it in the winter, maybe in the beginning of the spring, when you can have short, sharp storms. Make sure that you keep up to date. Listen to weather forecasts. You can register for flood warnings and flood alerts from the Met Office and from the Environment Agency. And just be aware that there is a risk. Check out, do you live in an area at risk of flooding? That is public information. Does the area that you have coverage with a flood siren? Do you know what the flood siren sounds like? Do you know what it means when it goes off? These are all things that you can investigate beforehand. If you are aware that there is likelihood that you may have serious flooding, you may well find that the local authority is starting to take precautions. They may even dump sandbags for you to take and to put round entrances to your property. Sensibly, look for any places where water could come in. If you are certain that this is going to happen, move as much as you can from downstairs to upstairs. The more that you move upstairs, the less you're likely to lose. Things like carpets and so on, and settees, if you leave them and there is flooding in the room, they're useless. They just have to be taken away and got rid of. They are so contaminated in flood water, it's not safe to try and keep them and use them. Turn off your electrics. Remove any electrical appliances. If there's something that you can't move, such as washing machines or tumble dryers, try and disconnect those from drainage, so that flood water doesn't backflow in through them. Sinks, baths, put a plug in, put something heavy over the plug. Again, if flood water is coming back up your piping, it stops it erupting into the basin or the bath and causing more problems there. If you remember the very first video which I did, I mentioned having a blackout box, a flood kit or a flood preparation box is useful. Similar sorts of things go in. because it's a similar sort of emergency. But we also suggest putting things like your household insurance details, driving licenses, passports, birth certificates, wedding certificates, etc., valuable paper items into a plastic container into your box. You can also add things like your torch, mobile phone, chargers, batteries, change of clothes, medications, both for you and for any animals. And you may also need to look at having a pet carrier for your cat or dog, harness and lead, because you're not going to want to leave them in your house if you get the call to evacuate suddenly at 3 o'clock in the morning. If somebody comes and knocks on your door from the emergency services or the flood wardens and say, go, grab your kit and go, don't mess about. Okay? It's very tragic, it's very sad when it happens, but things can be replaced. Unfortunately, people have died in the house in flooding. There was a case during the Easter floods in Northampton some years back of an elderly lady who was actually found drowned in her bed because the water had come in. She had not woken quickly enough and she drowned. We don't want that. There's lots of advice online. Pay attention, listen to what you're being told, and be prepared to do something. Not a happy subject, this one. Take care, and we'll see you again. Good night.